It's almost as though the sky's just closed its eye. We had a little bit of sunrise coming through the cloud. Good morning, welcome to Djuma Game Reserve, and welcome to our morning safari this morning. Sunday morning for us here in South Africa. Hope you're going to enjoy the next few hours with us. My name is Mark, and I have Wim on camera with me this morning. We have Nikki back in final control, and we're going to bring you whatever we can from this little corner of the Greater Kruger National Park. There's going to be a bit more of a sunrise later as it pops up above that cloud. We'll keep an eye on it. We're going to be heading in that direction as we go up towards our northern boundary. We're going to go and look for some cats that were calling not too long ago. In fact, they were calling only a few minutes ago. And I do get messages from Nikki to say that there are a number of viewers who are on our waterhole camera who've heard the lions. So let's go and see if they are within sight rather than sound. Rather still morning, cloudy skies. There's too much looking our way, bank of cloud, but behind us to the north and the northwest there's some pretty dark cloud. We'll get to see that now as I head towards Skari Waterhole and Djuma Dam, and it's much further away than we need to be concerned with. But there seems to be signs of weather coming or changing. Lex coming. Good morning to you. The cats that were calling earlier. Okay, copy that, thank you. It sounds like, well, the day before yesterday, I found tracks of lion here. After hearing about him drinking at the waterhole about an hour before the drive started, we found his tracks here heading south. Excuse me. Follow them all the way across the boundary. It seems it's possibly the same cat that's come back. The cat in the hat. Because evidently his tracks are coming north from Twindale. Nothing here yet. So I think I'm going to have a look on the other side of the water, just in case. Nothing on Weaver's Nest, nothing on Quarantine. There's a jumbo jet coming in to land. The bush, the heron. Great heron. Wonderful. You see how it was curving its wings to break the air. Well, not break it, but to brake, to put on brakes. So, buffalo calmly sitting around the waterhole, so I don't think a cat has been here yet. See, I think the buffalo would be a lot more nervous if that cat even sounded close by. They picked up a whiff of him. Fantastic. See, this is what some teamwork can do, working with legs to look the right direction. And just catch up with the boys before they cross over. I thought I was seeing 2 tracks earlier. I'm going to try and turn around for you, Viam. It's going to be much easier than to try and swivel in the chair. How's that? Oh, what a beautiful morning. Welcome to Africa, everyone. Welcome to our live safari this morning. These are 2 big male lions that, as far as I know, actually I think I'll let the lion fans identify them. I had a comment from Marla that came through a tweet. You can tweet us, by the way, hashtag Safari Live. I had a comment from Marla about the behavior we were seeing as we arrived with them, with the one male, what appeared to be him covering the other one. That's more of a dominance behavior than a sexually overt action. We have seen it with elephant, seen it with giraffe, seen it with impala. It's a passive dominance gesture, in my opinion. One brother just asserting his dominance over the other. Looked like it's got a pretty full belly, the one with his back to us. I can't see this one's belly too easily. I didn't get a good look when we first got here. Morning, boys. Oh, I got a few people that have come through with an answer on who these lions are. People are saying the Matimbas, and they are indeed the Matimba lions, the Matimba males. Good morning to Donald, asking if these are the dominant male lion of the area. They are two of a number of different coalitions of males that we have in the area, and we do notice that there is a little bit of an overlap of some of their home ranges, because we see several different coalitions, and we seem to be in a spot here at Djuma Game Reserve that just happens to be where some of these coalitions overlap. Now we have the Matimbas, these two. They mostly from the north. You can see how big he is. I wonder what they've been eating. Even a kudu between these two boys is a lot of meat, so they've clearly been having something in the last 24 hours. The northern area above Djuma is a place called Buffelshoek. This is called Buffelshoek Dam, I suppose because it's on the Buffelshoek boundary, and probably where they're headed when they leave here. I'm hoping that they're going to stay here for most of the day. In fact, it would be nice. I think if we had sunshine, we had have a very good chance that they'd lie under a tree for most of the day, but because it's overcast, they could get up and move. I think one thing we have in our advantage is the fact that they are full. Or he's full, at any rate. I don't know about his brother. So they move up into Buffelshoek. They move as far south as the property south of us. They do a little bit to the east, but they don't go very far to the west. I think the furthest west that they go is maybe sort of the western edge of Djuma, because there is a coalition of males that rule the roost, as it were, towards the west around Arathusa, and although there are differences in ages, there are a group of boys called the Birminghams. There's a group of boys called the Majingilans. The Majingilans are much further west, but they spread their territory towards as far east as Arathusa. There are the Salati males that come in from the north as well, from the northwest, from Manyaleti, and they're also known to cross over through Djuma. So there's quite a lion bottleneck happening here with big male coalitions, and the female prides that we find within all of their territory. This part of the world is a pride of lion known as the Nkuhumas. They come into Djuma from the Matimba's territory to the north, where they've actually been for a while now. They've been spending quite a bit of time in the north. It would appear that they haven't been answering the males, and the males have been calling, and it's most likely because this morning these two boys weren't together. Now, I would imagine that we might find that the one that came up from the south is this boy that's sleeping facing towards us, and I'm thinking that maybe the boy that's sleeping is the brother that might have come back from the north, because they haven't been together for the last few days. And as far as I know, we've only had the one set of tracks of the boy that went south. And he was calling this morning, and no doubt trying to locate his brother. And they must have met up fairly recently. In fact, probably minutes before we got here. And that would also account for that behavior that we saw. Stand by, please. Craig, come in. Now, Craig, one of these Matimba must have come down from the north, and he's got a very full belly. Yeah, I copied that. Yeah, I saw his tracks crossing with Baboon Pan day before yesterday, but he's the one I think that came back. I think they've only just met up again at the dam here. Mostly one set, just south of the dam, it seems, where they joined up. Lex, did you see where the other one joined up? I guess maybe. I don't think he looks as fat, as big, as round as his brother. So that's why, to a large extent, cats rest a lot. Tom in England. Good question, Tom. Do all the males get to does take over, or does... You also find sometimes, as far as the females are concerned, or a lot of the time, the females will come into estrus together, or relatively close to each other. Not always, but generally speaking, to have cubs at around the same time, so that the cubs don't... There's not too much of a discrepancy, because that can get a little bit difficult for the smaller cubs when it comes to being weaned, and it comes to fighting over food on a carcass. Cubs of similar ages have a greater chance of seeing it through to adulthood. rather than cubs of varying ages where the younger cubs are going to be dominated over, and I'm not going to get as much of a chance on a carcass as their older counterparts. He's having a bad hair day. Carol wants to know how old these Matimbas are. I think they're probably about 7 or 8, if I'm not mistaken. People. I'm trying to remember. I'm sorry, but I can't remember whether we had the Matimbas the last time we were here back in 2011. I don't think so. We had the Matingolans, 5 of them that came in. One of them was lost as soon as they arrived on the scene because they had a fight with the then ruling government known as the Mapojos. So I'm not sure. I don't think they were here 3 years ago. You can see a pretty hefty mane. I mean, this is the smaller of the 2 brothers. They might not even be siblings. They might be pride brothers from 2 different mothers. But pretty well developed manes, pretty scarred faces. They've had a few fights. Probably a lot of the scars not necessarily so much through fighting, but a lot through mating and scrapping over carcasses more than anything. Ears are not as tatty as they get by the time they've been through a few territorial bouts. So in their prime, probably around 8 years old. 7 or 8. Anybody can confirm or deny or disagree. While we're sitting here, I'm looking for this reptile. Yes. Ramona. Ramona wants to know, does he have an injury to his right paw? He does, Ramona. He's had it for a long, long time, from what I understand. He seems to worry it a lot, so he licks it a lot. And I think there has been speculation as to what caused it, but I couldn't tell you. Almost right there at the dew claw. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe they're a lot older than I thought. Oh yeah, Craig, you have to shout like that. Now the First time they were noticed was 2010. Evidently showed up in Manyeleti, thanks Diane. Showed up in November 2010. And they were thought to be about 6 years old then, which would put them at about 14 now. I can't see them being 14, I'm sorry. I know 14-year-old lions, and in a place where there are so many coalitions and there is so much conflict between lion. But thanks for the info, Diane. I'd like to see if there's more info available. I could also find out from the guys in Manyeleti, because if they've come in from Manyeleti and been pushed down by the other coalitions that have brewed, I suppose, in Manyeleti, I'm sure there'll be more info from them up there. Interesting concept. Renee is asking if the crocodile would do anything with the lions here. They could. I think this croc is probably a little bit too small to tackle one of them, but also the fact that there are two of them probably is intimidating enough. I think maybe what we can do while these boys are sleeping, let's just have a look if we can see that croc up on this little arm of the dam. And we can try and find a better position too in a little while.
I think he's there. Look about at 5 o'clock.
Oh, there. He's watching them then. You don't have to go anywhere. Yeah, but
That's a crocodile.
Yeah. There is the crocodile. He's watching. I don't even know if they know there is a crocodile. But it would be interesting. We'll keep an eye on the croc. It was just behind the torchwood for me. I also wonder if this is a different crocodile, because it looks a little bit smaller to me. It would be very strange if the crocodile that was here, if it moved off and it has been replaced by a smaller one. It's hard to tell, given the distance that it is, given there's nothing to really gauge its size until it gets out of the water. I just heard the radio go, Craig and Lex are talking about the age of the Matimbas. None of them have much of an idea, because also they haven't been in the Sabi Sands for very long. Lex saying maybe 8 to 10. Okay, I'm starting to lose you. I lost the middle of that, Nikki, but I think I got it. Just give me the date again from Karen. July 2011. The oldest was 6. So evidently the oldest of these two. How many were there in 6? So they were initially a coalition of 6. The oldest in 2011, July 2011, according to Karen, was the first time they showed up in Manyeleti, or maybe here from Manyeleti. And the oldest then was 6, which would put him 10, 11. That one, maybe that one on the left, evidently a male named Induna. I have heard of a male called Induna. However, it could be him, I guess. I wonder what happened to the other 4 brothers. Have to be brothers. They don't necessarily have to be related males to join up to form a coalition. Very interesting question from Derek. The arrival of the lion, is that linked to the very large herd of buffalo that's been around? Yes and no. Funny that you should mention that, Derek, because there are places where, especially where I've lived, where you can be pretty sure if you find a herd of buffalo, you can be pretty sure that they're going to be lying not far away. I mean, Ruaha National Park is renowned for the buffalo movement that takes place. It's almost like a seasonal, I wouldn't call it a migration, but there's the seasonal movement of these very, very large herds of buffalo, and they do these big loops around the Ruaha and the Mwagusi River, and they have to almost run a gauntlet between many different prides of lion, and the lion just feed off buffalo every 2 or 3 days. They become specialist buffalo hunters, and they very seldom eat anything else. The smaller groups of females that live within some of those territories, there's a couple of groups that don't feed on buffalo, and I've even known 2 lionesses who have killed adult bull buffalo on their own, but they also go for zebra and smaller things because it's only the 2 of them with their cubs, and the 2 males that live with them aren't always with them to help them with the buffalo. Here in this part of the world, the big breeding herds of buffalo that we get that come through here also move through different lion territories. So it's not always that lion can follow them, because the buffalo will move out of their territory. The buffalo move in much larger circles than the lion. So I guess when the buffalo herd is coming through, and I had a wonderful experience the night before I came back, just this last week when I was at home, my last night out on drive, had a breeding herd of buffalo coming up from my neighbours to the south, and they were crossing the main access road of the reserve of the Timbavati, going to the north, and that would have taken them just off of my eastern boundary. It would have been like almost them coming up from, well, the analogies are irrelevant, but we managed to watch the whole herd cross. There was some very interesting behavior out of a couple of bulls at the back of the herd, especially one very, very big bull and a much younger bull, and it was almost as though the big bull was preventing the younger bull from getting back to the herd. It's almost as though he was teaching the younger bull that the duty of a big old bull in a buffalo herd is to bring up the rear and to protect from lion at the rear. And they had only just crossed the road when the two local big male lions moved in and tried to make a kill just as it was getting dark. An enormous stampede, dust, noise, and some of the strangest noise I've ever heard from buffalo. And I've seen many lion hunts. I've been amongst lion hunting buffalo many times. Some very strange noises out of the buffalo that we could hear in the dark. Now, I had asked some of the neighbors that were at that had been watching the buffalo across the road. I'd asked them if they'd seen any sign of the two males, and they had been seen much further east to where the buffalo herd was, but it seemed like they must have had some inkling of the buffalo's presence. But did I say something wrong? Or you don't like my voice? If looks could kill. You're looking straight at me, not trying to. I'm okay, let's blink my eyes. Or maybe he doesn't like me talking about lion strategy.
We've got elephant.
Do lions ever go swimming? Oh, we got elephants coming. That's what he heard. He was looking right past me. There's a young elephant coming. A little bull with one tusk. This might be interesting because he could be. Craig got a small and glove on his way down to the water. Have you got more your side? Hang on, Nikki. Yeah, they're getting up. I suppose Craig can see that. Don't have to tell him that. Hello, little boy. The little Ellie's maybe not even interested in them just yet. I don't think he's seen them. He's just looking at us. Hello, little boy. Elephants. We're getting a little bit cautious. See, I think the lion don't know that there's only one little boy. Ellie can smell something. He's definitely quite tentative. Sorry, Nikki, I had the sound down. This one. The question, I'm not sure who it was from, was about whether the lion ever get into the water. Here not, no. Here in this part of the world, the lion aren't very fond of water at all. Margot was asking. Margot is in Florida. Have only ever known lion to have to deal with water in places where there are very big rivers, or in the Okavango Delta where they have to cross water to get to the different islands, to get from island to island and move through the swampland. But I've never known lion to actually swim. I think in a lot of the big bodies of water you've always got crocodiles and cats where they live. With cats that live in those areas with crocodiles will invariably be very wary of the crocodiles. Morning, little boy. Now he could be just breaking away from his family and coming down for a drink. He's going to head towards where they were sleeping, and I'm sure he'll pick up their scent. Or he could be a teenager that's leaving his herd and hoping to find a bigger bull to be with. We need to move, because now we've got no view of cats and no view of Ellie. What, little boy? Ellie on my head. Okay, he's panicking, so we'll just let him calm down. He's possibly smelling the fact that there have been cats around, and he's also I suppose a little bit insecure without mom and family around. It's quite possible that they're slowly making their way here to the water. Right, let's see if I can start up again. See? As soon as I start up, he gets nervous. Yeah, there we go. Got more Ellie's behind us, so he's just all he's done is he's decided to come to the water before the rest left. That's why he's a bit nervous, because and this seems to be, it's not a herd, seems to be a bachelor herd of bulls, so he's probably quite new to the bachelors and babies. Let's go and have a look. The cats are lying down again. We're not going to lose them. But here comes one of the big cows and her children. Very big. What happened was the cats must have heard that there was more than just one little boy elephant. I wasn't hearing this big herd. Huge, beautiful big group that are heading down to the river, to the dam. To get to the water, it's not hot. Why who would it, the lion? Well, because this herd will charge them. The herd of elephants do not like lion, especially with these little ones that we can see. Help me, mommy! So this is a very large herd. Now we need to get to the water to be able to watch them come down. We don't want to be behind them. But a very large herd like this, if they pick up on lion and they see the lion, and don't see eye to eye. There are places where lions are big boys. Thank you, Craig. Very good in you.
A big belly, he doesn't want to eat anybody.
Wow, just made it in time to get a duo of lions and elephants. to get a better. So they've Dreamland. Just want to see if we can get, because the ellies are not going to be here for too long. There's the crocodile. That is still, I think. You can see the croc moving away from the ellies as well now. Sorry if the angle's different. Still quite a big crocodile, so I think it's still the same croc. Just need an elephant to give it perspective. Like a submarine or a battleship slowly moves away from potential trouble. Oh, there, that little one, they're smelling where the lion was sleeping. They don't seem to be reacting too much to the fact that there were lion there. And there's still elephants coming out of the woodwork in the background.
Those lines here for a fact that it's better for them to move away than size-wise, numbers-wise. Crop knows it's not a good idea to again, there's other animals that come down to drink that you can smash up, koala, bushbuck, nyala, kudu. There's also a few fish in here as well. Sorry, it's been a horrible Sunday. So we knew we'd see a lot of elephants. Just like the end of the view. That is the view.
Got a fright. One elephant got a fright from the heron. I'm getting a very rough signal on the radio, and I know there are some questions coming in. I think one of the questions, and I couldn't pick up who that was from, was something about what would cause an elephant to lose a tusk. Well, sometimes they get broken in sparring and fighting. Sometimes a tusk can be lost broken through breaking of branches. But quite often when we don't see a tusk, it is because the tooth hasn't grown out. Maybe not necessarily that it's broken off or they've lost a tusk. Maybe they just didn't have tusks to begin with. That's quite a tender and very touching gesture there, putting trunk in the other one's mouth, that we saw very often the greeting that elephants have. The little ones are intrigued with that gully that's formed. There was another question too. Would the lion have felt the elephant in the vibration in the ground? No, they definitely, from what I deduced from the way he sat up and he looked towards me, I thought it was because I was talking. I thought it might have had something to do with my voice. But he heard a noise and he looked up, and then he started listening to more noises. I couldn't hear it basically because I've got one ear blocked with an earphone listening to the radio, and the other ear mostly the hum from the vehicle. So it's very difficult for me to hear the subtle sounds of a herd. Even though it's a herd of elephant, I have to tell you, they move quieter than one person would walk through the bush. And because he is very attuned to those noises, he would have lifted his head. And I've seen it so many times, the way lions do that. You can hear a squirrel now shouting at him. Let's move down next to the water. something that you find, especially when you're tracking lion, even on foot, especially when the way they suddenly jump up when they hear you coming, because very often you find lion will be sleeping if you're tracking them, and before you know it, you suddenly got a lion jumping up ahead of you because you don't see them. They're so fast asleep, and they're flat. It's only when they suddenly lift their heads because they can hear you. I don't think they feel vibration. I think it's more an audible signal that they get before they feel anything. I also don't think, based on the quietness of those elephants moving, they're not making that much of a vibration, a rumble on the ground. But you can hear the noise of a squirrel alarming. In fact, I can see the squirrel now sitting on a dead tree. Also very typical of squirrel alarming is the flicking of the tail. It's almost like a squeaky toy. It's the tail that makes the noise. You move the tail to make a noise. And suddenly, Buffelshoek Dam, apart from the squirrel shouting, has become a very quiet and tranquil place once again. No one would, if we didn't know the lion were here and we just had to arrive at the dam right now, we would think that very quiet, no activity, peaceful, tranquil scene, with no inkling that there was a little bit of drama that has just played itself out. You see, lion also want to avoid a confrontation with larger mammals. They can't afford to get hurt. Even if there was a big herd of buffalo and they weren't ready to hunt, they would probably move away, because the buffalo would probably try and chase them off or attack them. And you can't afford to have an injury as a predator. Well, I suppose as anything, even if you prey. Buffalo, on the other hand, do have a habit of protecting their old and injured. Lois, I think it is, in Buffalo, New York. Lois is asking if males, when they form a coalition, non-related males, I guess, will they fight to assert dominance, to establish dominance? They might do. I mean, we noticed that when we were in Thornybush a couple of years ago, notable example, when we were in Thornybush, there was a young male that was just leaving the pride, and a new male had come in to Thornybush from the Timbavati. He had somehow got in. Well, the fence wasn't very substantial at the time, probably because of previous flooding, where the Timbavati River left Manyalet, or rather left Thornybush. And a male had come in from Timbavati, and the first day that they got together, there was a scuffle, there was a bit of a fight, and the young male was, well, he got a pretty bad cut on his upper lip. And then after that, they joined up and they formed a coalition, and I think they're still together today. I must actually look into that to see whether they are still together, the two boys. But different ages, different areas, they've joined up together. Well, I guess now that I'm seeing him lying differently, it does look like he might have a full belly. Not as full as his brother, but he's certainly got a full belly. Peggy's asking if elephants ever get as full as lions do, because elephants seem to always be eating. No, they don't really, Peggy, because their digestive system is somewhat different. You see, lions are eating a very high protein meal. They're eating meat. It doesn't move through the system very quickly. It takes a longer time to digest. Elephant, on the other hand, have the kind of digestive system that requires constant movement. Food going in and food coming out, because the kind of digestive system doesn't really take very much out of what they put in. Excuse me a second. Go ahead. Very welcome, Andrew. Do you know where I am? Yeah, from the northwestern side, where that where the Skovanin is. So elephants, part of their diet is roughage. Part of the necessary part of their diet, branches and bark and twigs and roots, very rough material that is able to help move undigested material out. So essentially elephant can't really get over full, because their digestive system is constantly processing the vegetation and making space for new food to come in. There's a fair amount of fermentation that takes place, and if the food stays in the stomach too long, that fermentation can become more advanced, and of course it can cause gases and build up that an elephant shouldn't really have within its stomach. And so the roughage that it needs helps pass through all the undigested material. Trying to think. I'm sure Andrew will find a place. Only a couple of days ago we were in a very similar situation with another dam, with another group of lion lying amongst fallen trees where the water had receded.